All right, let's talk about one of the most important safety standards on any job site, OSHA's rules for aerial lifts. Now, if you operate one, work anywhere near one, or you're the supervisor on that site, you need to know this stuff inside and out. It's absolutely non-negotiable. Because when things go wrong with these machines, they go very wrong very fast. And this isn't some hypothetical. This is the last line from a real OSHA incident report. Just two words. Two words that sum up a tragedy that never should have happened. Let's dig into what was behind that report. You know, to really get why these rules are so important, we have to start with the real-world impact. We're not just going to talk about regulations and numbers. We're going to start with the story of a worker who, because of a few simple mistakes, didn't get to go home at the end of the day. So just picture it. A pretty routine job, way up in the air. This worker is in a boom lift, but he's not tied off. The machine makes a sudden, unexpected move, a little jolt, and that's all it takes. In a split second, he's ejected from the basket. It was a 35-foot fall. So what really happened here? Well, it wasn't just one freak thing. It was a whole chain of failures. The most obvious one? He wasn't wearing a harness. But why not? Because nobody was enforcing the rule. And why didn't they? Probably because of a serious gap in safety training. Every single one of those was a chance to prevent a death. And to make sure this doesn't happen again, we have to know what we're up against. OSHA's standard is really built around stopping four main types of incidents. You can think of these as the big four threats that you've got to have in your head every single time you're around an aerial lift. Okay, first up, and this is the big one, falls. This is the #1 killer when it comes to aerial lifts, by a long shot. We just saw how you can get ejected, but it also happens when people overreach, leaning way out of the basket, or, and you can't believe people do this, they stand on the guardrails to get just a few more inches of height. Next up are tip-overs. I mean, think about it. The entire machine just going over, it's a total catastrophe. And it's usually caused by something preventable, like setting up on soft or sloped ground, trying to work in really high winds, or just overloading the basket with too many people, tools, and materials. Hazard number 3 is electrocution. Look around almost any job site and you're gonna see overhead power lines. If you're in a giant metal lift and you make contact with one of those lines, well, it's often instantly fatal. That's why OSHA has a very, very clear rule on this. And here's the number you have to burn into your brain. 10 feet. For any power lines up to 50,000 volts, you have to stay at least 10 feet away. Not 9, not close enough, 10 feet. That number is a law of survival. And finally, our fourth hazard is basically everything else that can hit you or trap you. This covers stuff like dropping a tool from the basket onto someone below, or maybe the operator getting pinned between the basket and a steel beam above. It could even be getting caught in the machine's own moving parts. You've got to have your head on a swivel, 360 degrees of awareness. Okay, so we know the dangers. Now let's talk about the machines themselves, because not all aerial lifts are created equal, and this is super important. The safety rules, especially when it comes to fall protection, can actually change depending on what type of lift you're using. So you're mostly going to run into these two. On the left, that's a boom lift with its long articulating arm. And on the right, you've got the scissor lift, which pretty much just goes straight up and down. And this difference is absolutely critical. Boom lifts, they can reach way up and out, they can rotate, but that very movement creates a real danger of being thrown from the basket. That's why a full body harness is always required in a boom lift, always. Scissor lifts, on the other hand, they only move up and down. So on those, the guardrail system is actually considered the main form of protection, and you usually don't need a harness. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what OSHA actually requires. And listen, don't think of this as some boring list of rules. Think of it as your survival guide. This is the playbook of actions that directly fight those hazards we just talked about, and it's designed to make sure you get home in one piece. It all starts right here, before you even think about lifting off the ground. Every single day, every single shift starts with a full inspection of the machine. You're checking the controls on the ground and in the basket. You're testing that emergency lowering system, make sure it works, and you're giving a good hard look at all the critical parts. This is your first and best line of defense. Now, once you're up in the air, the rules are simple, and they are absolute. Both of your feet stay flat on the platform floor, period. You never, ever climb or stand on the guardrails. If you're in a boom lift, you are tied off with your harness. And you always, always respect the machine's load capacity. That basket is your safe zone. Don't do anything to compromise it. Okay, here's one that comes up on job sites all the time. I'm sure you've seen people do it, but is it actually okay? Can you drive the lift from one spot to another while you're still raised up in the air? The answer is yes. But, and this is a huge but, only if a bunch of conditions are met. First, the manufacturer has to say it's okay for that specific model. Second, the ground has to be perfectly level and firm. Third, you have to be moving at a crawl, super slow and controlled. And finally, your path has to be totally clear of any bumps, holes, or debris. If even one of those things isn't perfect, then the answer is a hard no. Now, one of the most important things OSHA makes clear is that safety isn't just one person's job. It's a partnership. Both the company and the worker on the ground have very specific, very important jobs to do to keep everyone safe. And that partnership is really pretty straightforward. The employer has to provide the right training, keep the machines in good shape, and actually enforce the safety rules. Your job as the employee is to follow that training, do your inspection before you use the lift, wear your gear, and speak up immediately if you see a hazard. You see, it's a two-way street. So if we boil this entire thing down to 3 things you absolutely have to remember, what would they be? It's this simple 3-point mantra. 1. Always inspect the machine before you use it. 2. Always wear your harness and a boom lift. 3. Always keep that 10-foot safety bubble around power lines. I'm telling you, those 3 habits alone will stop the vast majority of accidents. So we'll end on this thought. When you show up to work tomorrow and you walk over to that aerial lift, what is the very first safety action you're going to take? Seriously, think about it. The answer to that question might be the most important decision you make all day long.